this is how insulin resistance works, okay? So on the right, or my right, your left, this is a normal function and this is a resistance, okay? So normally when you consume a carbohydrate and you're releasing glucose into the blood, insulin comes along, binds with the protein in the cell membrane, and the insulin binding, it was released from the pancreas into the bloodstream, comes along to the cell, goes to the insulin receptor. This then releases a signal to the GLUT4, so the glucose 4 transporters. These are in the cytoplasm of the cell. They are then released and they come up, they are taken up to the cell membrane and they come up through the cell membrane, and they're like hollow tubes of protein, and the glucose comes in and it goes through the transporters and goes into the cell. That's how it should process normally. When you have resistance, okay, what happens is you still release insulin, so you're eating a high fat and sugary meal. So there's high fat, but there's also sugar in the meal. But if you're eating, you're going to produce a insulin response. So because of the fat blocks this whole process, the signaling process. So when insulin here and insulin here, comes in to the insulin receptor site, the signaling process is blocked from all of the excess fat. So that means that the signal is blocked, and the GLUT4, so the glucose 4 transporters, don't go up to the surface, come up to the surface, and therefore the glucose doesn't enter the cell. It comes and it goes away, okay, because it's not coming into the cell, okay. And the reason why you want glucose is because it comes in and you want it to produce ATP. So glucose would come in, and firstly in the cytoplasm it goes through glycolysis. So this is glucose derived ATP, and I'm not going to go into the fine details of respiration. I'm just going to keep it simple and brief for now, because you can look that up yourself. It's widely available. All this information is available, okay? It's all available. I'm not making any of this up, okay? So then the product of glycolysis, then it goes into the mitochondria of the cell. So it goes into the Krebs cycle, and that goes, spins around, okay? And then that produces molecules which then go to, and that produces ATP. And then that produces molecules which then go to the electron transport chain, okay? So this is the most important part of the respiration, or producing energy for living. And this happens in the intermembrane space in the mitochondria. So the mitochondria has two membranes, and the electron transport chain occurs here in the intermembranous space, and this is what produces the most ATP, okay? So ATP, this is the molecule that you're producing when you're doing all this. So the reason why you need ATP is because you would die without it. So think of ATP as like the monetary currency of your cell. So the reason why you need ATP is because it makes, inside your cell, it makes everything work. So it gives the energy for essentially transactions to happen. So like your $10, £10 or €10 note is used, like, so if ATP is like a $10 note, it's used as a transaction to allow everything to occur in the cell. So to move ions around and create gradients across cell membranes. It keeps you alive. It makes the cell be able to function properly normally, and the electron transport chain is what produces the most. Okay, so it produces several times more ATP than glycolysis. So this is without oxygen. So glycolysis doesn't need oxygen to occur. So this is why it's the primary energy system of the human body. But this needs oxygen. So glycolysis, then Krebs cycle, and then oxidative phosphorylation in the electron transport chain. So the fat not only blocks glycolysis, it also blocks the electron transport chain because it comes into the cell, and fat can, what they call in the scientific literature is it can flip-flop. Okay, so it might sound funny, but fatty acids can flip-flop across the membrane. Sugar can't. It needs this process. And so sugar can't. So the fat flip-flops across the membrane. It comes in and it can get in and it can disrupt the electron transport chain. And it can cause a blockage and a backup back through. So it disrupts the electron transport chain, then that disrupts oxidative phosphorylation, then that disrupts the Krebs cycle, and then that blocks up and disrupts the glycolysis. And eventually that can cause programmed cell death within a cell because you're not producing ATP anymore. So this is it's not diabetes. This is type 2 diabetes. Is not a sugar disease, okay? So diabetes is not a sugar disease. It's a fat, as highlighted by this green highlighter. It's a fat and insulin disease. So it's an insulin disorder, metabolic disorder caused by fat, excess dietary fat, and partly protein as well. But the main cause is excess dietary fat, okay? So that's how insulin resistance, that's what insulin resistance is, okay? To put it as simply as I can, and so that everyone can understand, okay? So I'll take you back to the video and we'll carry on from where he was starting to talk about what is diabetes. So there you go. So I hope I haven't made any spelling mistakes. GLUT4, yeah. So glucose 4 transport resistance, yeah. So there you go. So you take a screenshot of that.